All right, let's talk Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of news flying around Pittsburgh, of course, involving the quarterback position over the past couple of days. But when you break it down, all the different sources, it's clear the Steelers' strategy is working, and they actually made a really smart move. A lot of people aren't focusing on. We'll get to that in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick. That is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, without further ado, let's jump into all these reports and then break down what it really means for Pittsburgh on the other side. First, we got two articles for you guys. This first one is from the Daily Mail, and it says a source said the Steelers are starting to lean towards not signing Aaron Rodgers. It was all but a foregone conclusion that he was going to join the team, and he still might, but the waiting is taking its toll on the players that are already there, the team chemistry, and Coach Mike Tomlin. Being a week removed from the NFL draft, the team has to figure out what they will be this upcoming season, and it would be nice to have Aaron sign, but if he's going to hold out, they are becoming fine with it. All right, so based on the Daily Mail's reporting, the Steelers are moving away from potentially signing Aaron Rodgers. They're leaning away from that quarterback. And of course, a second article on there is from CBS Sports. Again, this is something that Rodgers said yesterday in his interview with Pat McAfee. He said, I told every single one of the teams, it's not about the money. I'll play for $10 million. I don't care. Rodgers reiterated later that he's literally offered to play for $10 million in 2025. That's very interesting because now we're going to go to our third article real quick. We talked about this about a week and a half ago, and this was reported according to Diana Russini and confirmed by numerous sources that Rodgers was asking about the money. She reported, usually it's money. Financials are always part of it. He does not need to sign and take some cheap deal. He knows the Steelers need him. Do I think he was going to be willing to take less to play for a team that he thinks is a Super Bowl caliber team like the Minnesota Vikings? Absolutely. But I think this situation, talking about the Steelers, is different. There's going to be a number here that's going to make Aaron happy, and I just don't know if Pittsburgh is there yet. So the Steelers were not giving Rodgers the big money that Rodgers wanted a number of weeks ago when they met, of course, had the long conversation. Time goes by. The Steelers are now leaning away from Aaron Rodgers, saying, listen, we got Rudolph. Maybe we'll get a guy like Milrow in the draft in day 2 on the draft. And now suddenly Rodgers is making the biggest mistake anyone can ever do that the Steelers forced. He's negotiating against himself. He wanted a bigger deal with the Steelers, and now he's like, listen, I'll take $10 million. I'll take a team-friendly deal. The Steelers made the right move here, right? They waited. They didn't give Rodgers everything he wanted, and now Rodgers is negotiating against himself, backing down his demands. The Steelers have turned themselves into a position that wasn't great into a really strong negotiation position. Credit to Omar Khan for getting it done. Miles, I'm curious your thoughts on all of this, but first, let's hear from the sponsor of today's video. With the NFL draft right around the corner, there are a lot of hours of preparation really being thrown into right now for one of the biggest nights of the entire season. So when we need to turn to a quick high protein snack, we go to the sponsor of today's video, and that's Magic Spoon.
Yeah, Nick, I think whether it's their cereal or their protein treats, Magic Spoon fits a variety of diets. It's high protein, no sugar, great for carb conscious lifestyles. Magic Spoon is basically your childhood reinvented. It's that same great taste that you remember, but upgraded with grown up ingredients. Magic Spoon treats, they have 11 to 12 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, and 1 to 2 grams of carbs. On the other hand, though, Magic Spoon cereal, also very good, 13 to 14 grams of protein, 0 sugar, 4 to 5 grams of net carbs in each serving, so you can feel good about what you're eating. Now, Nick, you go ahead and tell the people about today's offer while I enjoy one of these treats.
Look, use our code SMI or click on the link in the description to try Magic Spoon cereal or treats today. And here's the most important part, you get $5 off. You can also find Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. I know it's right by my Publix. I love it. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product. It's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee online. So if you don't like it for any reason at all, which you won't, you'll love it. They'll refund your money, no questions asked. So click on the link in the description to go to magicspoon.com/SMI or scan the QR code on the screen if you're big into QR codes for $5 off.
Yeah, Nick, I think this is a really interesting decision out of Pittsburgh. It shows high-level negotiating ability. It shows Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin knowing how to play the game. And, I think overall just become, like you said, it felt like at first Aaron Rodgers had all the negotiating power. It felt like there weren't many quarterbacks left. They're coming into a draft. They needed a guy to come up and step up if they thought this was a team that has the ability to win. Now they really just felt like a weak negotiating position. Now the Steelers took the stance smartly. It's everything's 2020 in hindsight. And people might have doubted this at first, but it seems like the Pittsburgh Steelers moved to go and say, "Hey, we don't need you. We're just going to go ahead and go our separate way. We're going to go ahead and look towards the draft. We'll do whatever we got to do to make us a stronger team. We aren't going to wait on Rodgers." Really was a play to kind of back Rodgers into a corner and say, "What do you really want? Who do you really want to go with? Where are you at now?" And I think this is a very interesting move that was made because, as you alluded to, now Rodgers saying, "I'll take $10 million. I'll take a really low contract to play with the team. It doesn't matter. I just it's got to be the right situation for me." So I think Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin here, really smart moves by them, just giving them it's so hard in the world in general to be in a weak negotiating situation and to give yourself a stance of power from said negotiating spot. It takes a lot of forethought. It takes a lot of good moves and good negotiating ability to be able to do that. And I think the Steelers have done just that. So really a big credit to them. Are they going to go with Aaron Rodgers? I don't think we know. I think, it's 50-50 at this point. But if they do, they have now put themselves in a situation where they're going to get him for a heck of a deal. $10 million for Aaron Rodgers would be a really good steal for Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, and this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And if they don't, they already, they kind of gave themselves the ability to, I would say this. It sounds like if the Steelers even decide not to go in the Rodgers direction, they made themselves look like, "Hey, we already made this decision a while ago. So no matter what, if they decide to not go Rodgers, they make themselves look strong as well." Because they said, "Hey, we already decided we wanted to move on. We're going to go ahead and go." So either way, it's as weird as it sounds. This is a win-win for the Steelers because either A, the Steelers have put themselves in a strong negotiating position with Aaron Rodgers, get him for a steal of the deal, or B, the Steelers have, give themselves a powerful stance of the team by saying, "All right, you know what? We don't need Aaron Rodgers," and then actually sticking true to that when Rodgers is backpedaling, when he is looking a little bit weaker himself. So I think overall, a strong move by the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's like we've said, this feels like a different Steelers team. We've seen a lot of moves lately, a lot of change, a lot of things that's uncharacteristic of the Steelers, and this one really feels like a move in that vein. But good job to Omar Khan, good job to Mike Tomlin for making this decision and really putting the Pittsburgh Steelers in a strong position no matter what happens here.
Yeah, so a long time, I think it was an FBI negotiator, Chris Voss. He wrote a book, Never Split the Difference. It was a bestseller. It was a really interesting read. And one of the things he talks about when it comes to negotiation, you do like hostage negotiations, right? And one of the things he would sit there and say when dealing with someone that was taking a hostage, he would say part of the negotiation would be just if the hostage taker's asking for something, you're just like, "Listen, I'd love to give you that, but I just can't." And then you just I just can't give you that. And then over time, what he said the craziest thing would happen, the hostage taker would keep lowering their ask because they wanted something out of it, just human nature. You want something out of the transaction. So essentially, what the Steelers and Omar Khan did is they took that Voss approach, that FBI hostage negotiation approach. Remember, Aaron Rodgers held the Packers hostage. He held the Jets hostage. And he was trying to, I'm not saying deliberately, but just how he handles himself in a negotiation posture was holding the Steelers hostage. And the Steelers and Omar Khan completely flipped that on its head here. And it was a really great job. They just were like, "Listen, Aaron, we like you. We don't love you. We like you. But we can't do it at that price," like Rossini and virtually everyone else reported about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. So what happens? Rodgers over time starts negotiating against himself. Like, "Oh, let me lower my ask. Let me lower my demands." And now we're going up against the draft. Everyone knows if the Steelers draft a guy like Milroe in day two, paired with Rudolph as their bridge quarterback, they don't need Aaron Rodgers. They won't sign him to a deal. So what are you starting to see from Aaron Rodgers? Super team friendly deal. I'll do whatever, right? Again, this is great negotiation by Omar Khan, by his staff. And again, we're talking about a new Pittsburgh Steelers team. The Steelers franchise for the better part of a decade and a half was the exact opposite of this. They weren't as brutal on the negotiation table. They weren't as brutal with how they treated their staff, how they treated their assistants, how they treated their players. it was one of those things where they tried to be I think so much to be the anti-Cincinnati Bengals because the Bengals are so notoriously cheap. It frustrates their players. They wanted to be seen as the opposite. So they wanted to, give everyone a long rope. Matt Canada, we'll give you as many years as you need. Oh, we'll overpay for our stars, or we'll be willing to do these friendly deals for the player, maybe if it hurts the team long term. Not anymore, folks. It's a new day in Pittsburgh. It's led by Omar Khan. They are ruthless, brutal, 100% straight shooters, too. They're not liars at all, but they're being tough negotiators. They're doing a great job. And again, this is the approach. This is the way to turn Pittsburgh around. We reported on it about a week ago that they're tougher with TJ Watt, right? They're looking at their veteran deals and saying, listen, we got a lot of guys low overvalued here. We have to structure our deals and think differently in the future. Aaron Rodgers, we'd love to have you, but only for a certain price. And Rodgers right now is backpedaling so fast, right? Before it's said and done, Aaron Rodgers may say, listen, I'll pay Pittsburgh to come play for you guys, right? This is the direction it's trending, and it's a credit to the Steelers leadership. People don't pay attention to this because so many other teams, especially when they're desperate for a quarterback, overpay to the extreme. The Cleveland Browns did it. The Jets did it. Even teams like the Seattle Seahawks, right? They traded Geno Smith, and they got Sam Darnold for a relatively team-friendly deal, but it's still Sam Darnold, for God's sakes. The Falcons did it with Kirk Cousins, right? Every single offseason, we see a team that feels like they're desperate for a quarterback, and they overpay to the extreme. They do too much. The Steelers are proving themselves to be smarter than those guys. They're taking the right approach here. It is the smart move to make. I personally think at this point that, listen, you let Aaron Rodgers sit till after the draft. Maybe he takes the league veteran minimum. Can you imagine Aaron Rodgers playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers at a veteran minimum deal? I think that's the way we're coming. You draft Jalen Milroe in day 2, who I think they're going after, maybe somebody else, but I think it's Milroe. You have Rudolph, and you have Rodgers coming in at the league minimum, and you sit there and say, hey, we'll play probably Rodgers, maybe Rudolph will be the backup, and we'll develop Milroe. To me, that's the perfect situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that's their long-term game plan, and so far, the way things are going, it's looking like that will be exactly how it all works out.